LNTEOW, the alchemical transmutation of suffering into comedy gold. Traveling Trav's Transrational Blues.
Are there any flat earthers here tonight? It's okay. Don't have to be afraid. No judgment here. We all know we're being lied to. It's just a matter of, how are we being lied to? Did y'all ever see Zeitgeist, the movie? Yeah, thanks, Zeitgeist. That was the documentary film that really just broke it all open for me. Hey, 9/11, the whole financial system, and religion is just all a bunch of bullshit. Have fun with that. Thank you, Peter Joseph. I'm one of those guys who went to therapy. Anybody here go to therapy? Anybody have a positive experience at therapy? Yeah? Anybody have a bad experience? Oh, I had those. One time I went into a therapist and she was like, put your phone in this basket. I was like, I don't think so. I don't know anything about current events. Does anybody know anything about current events? I just wait for my friends to tell me the most important stuff. I just have them catch me up. It's not the most reliable way, but it works. But I did find out whenever they switched the presidency candidates on us on the blue side, I honestly I didn't know who Kamala Harris was. That's how close I was following government, civic participation, kind of low. Where do you stand on chemtrails? How about like lizard people on the moon? Flat Earth? Or like the moon landing, yes or no? These are important things these days. What can we know and how do we come to know it? Everything seems to be falling apart. Who is real? What is real? Is Elon Musk, is he real? What about Zuckerberg? Is he a real person? How can we even know with AI anymore what we're seeing? I don't know. Honestly, though, I'm not a researcher, and I'm not going to research, so I can't really say. How can I really know about who's on the moon or even anything about anything? I'm not a scientist, and I went to school, and just to really kind of understand how little I know, I don't know how to make any of the technology that we have. If all of this shuts down, I'm in big trouble. I'm challenging everything just because a video game once told me to do it. It's like, challenge everything. I was like, oh, okay, I will. Anybody here play video games? I don't even want to boot up the console if I'm not playing for 8 hours straight. That's how I am. It's about full immersion for me. Otherwise, I don't even know how to operate the controls. Like it takes me 2 hours in just to, remember how to operate the controls again. So yeah, 8 to 16 hours straight is really how I prefer to play those games. I actually prefer the virtual world. I determined that ages ago. I'm an artist. It's kind of like that. You ever heard of Tolkien, the guy who wrote The Lord of the Rings? Like he spent a really long time creating an elven language. You talk about a virtual world. Like virtual worlds used to be books. You know what MMO stands for? Mass Multiplayer Online Gaming. I was taming dinosaurs in the Ark, collaborating with 13-year-old boys. I'm not a pedophile. I never crossed any lines. One time I had this perfect fort in a hidden place in the forest, and I shared this place with this kid, and he came and he started fucking chopping down all of my trees, like disrespectful kids in my virtual world. I worked so hard for this shit, don't you understand? And this kid, he just chopped down all the trees. It was like right where my pterodactyl farm was. And that's really all I ever wanted in my virtual life was just a pterodactyl. I just wanted to be a simple pterodactyl farmer. That's all I really ever wanted. But it's a lot of grinding. You to get that pterodactyl farm, there's a lot of virtual work you've got to do. And it does become a grind. At some point, you're like, oh, I got to get to work. Like you turn on the console, you're like, I got 6 hours of work before I can really get to what I want to be doing in this virtual world. That's weird. Did you know that both Liam Neeson and Alan Jackson drove forklifts? Me too. I drove a forklift. I've had a bunch of jobs, really. I used to be a cop when I was like 27 years old. All my friends, they told me, hey, you shouldn't be a cop. But I did it anyway. So some of you been to therapy. Yeah, did it help? Like I said, I went to therapy. I started crying really hard. Like I didn't know. I was like, oh God, I'm so sad. I didn't understand how sad. I just knew I was angry. I didn't really understand how sad I was. I didn't stop crying for about 15 years. I don't know. I like to have a female therapist. After a while, I thought, well, maybe I need to talk to a dude, about my emotions. So I tried that, and he was like, stop signs and flowers for your wife. And I was like, oh shit, dude, this is not going good. I need to talk to a woman. I was raised on Richard Pryor, Monty Python, George Carlin, Saturday Night Live. My first religious experience happened when the Blues Brothers showed up at James Brown's church. They were like, do 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 do. Yeah, that was. My dad was like, dance, boys, dance. We're doing this. Thank you, Jesus. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a middle-aged white guy. We're the ones who are always killing ourselves. I can talk about that. You ever hear about Albert Camus? Isn't that a fun name to say, Albert Camus? It makes you feel real smart when you say French things. It's French, so it's smart. Albert Camus. You might discover Camus if you do a Google search for "Why don't I kill myself?" One time, I took an extra hour for lunch, so I went to the hardware store and bought 20 feet of rope. But I'm okay. I'm okay. Everything's all right now. I'm okay. If you do believe that the earth is flat, here's the thing about that. It means that none of astrophysics means anything at all, like Newtonian physics. If you have any kind of respect for that, it's like that doesn't mean a damn thing. If the earth is flat like a table, then the physics classes I took in college were just a bunch of bullshit, which means that Dr. Anderson, my physics instructor, was lying to me for 2 semesters. And also, it turns out that Alex Jones was exactly right about like 95% of the crazy shit that he said. And that's why a lot of us are crazy right now, because we just are like watching it all kind of fall apart under our noses, I guess. So yeah, I mean, the going to see a male therapist thing, that was a mistake. He wasn't helpful at all. Cognitive behavioral therapy, right? They say, it's always a thought first, and then it's an emotion, and then it's a behavior. It's a circle. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to fix myself, fix my thoughts again. That's when I became, ready once again to really work on the inner, like do the work so you don't kill yourself. Does anyone here identify as non-binary, male, female, off and on, zeros and ones, ups and downs, just not doing any of that anymore? I don't know. A lot of questions, no answers here for that. Any of y'all smoke weed? Who likes to smoke weed? I mean, one time I was sober off weed for like 11 months, and I was so serious about it that when I knew I was about to relapse on marijuana, I got myself into a 12-step program. You know how hard it is to get into a treatment center when you're about to relapse on marijuana? You call the insurance agency and you're like, I'm about to relapse on marijuana. And they're like, that's not a thing. I was like, yes, it is. It is a thing. It is a thing. Relapsing on weed. Apparently, that's not really a thing in the recovery community. I don't know. But I got into a treatment center anyway. I drove myself there. Nobody drives themselves to the treatment center, but I was the only one at the treatment center with the car. So I walked in the door. I was like, hey, I'm here. I'm like, whoo, that was close. I almost relapsed on marijuana. Who goes to a treatment center because they're about to relapse on marijuana? I do. That's what I did. And you know what the doctor said to me? Almost the first day I was there, he was like, "Well, Mr. Irwin, marijuana might be an appropriate rescue drug for you." Well, if that's the case, doc, you can now consider me rescued. I don't smoke marijuana very often, but when I do, I smoke it every day. That's not my joke. I don't know where it came from. I got it at church the other day. So now I'm writing jokes. I'm going to be a cosmic joker. I'm going to transmute all the suffering into comedy gold. My dad said years ago, he said, hey, son, you remember how the day you left home was the same day I chased you around that tree in the front yard with that crazy look in my eye? Yeah, Dad, I do remember that. You make a joke out of that, son. Oh, I was like, fuck you, Dad. But now he was right, son of a bitch. The old man was right. I love my dad. I just don't trust my dad. I don't trust him. One day, years ago, my dad was cooking breakfast for me. I mean, he's real creative in the kitchen, just like my brother was. Did I tell you about my brother? Yeah, he stabbed himself in the neck, cut a deep valley in his forearm, and then he suffocated himself with a paper bag. Anyway, yeah, I think. I think that's why my dad suggested that I turn our tumultuous relationship into a great joke. Anyway, so my dad, he's cooking breakfast. He's real creative in the kitchen. Red peppers, yellow peppers, mushrooms. It's so beautiful. I love my dad so much. He's telling stories about his childhood while he's cooking. He's recounting his childhood. And then he starts talking about the pet duck he had when he was a kid. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. This is not a good sign. When dad starts talking about his pet duck that his dad killed for supper one night, oh, shit. He's talking about the pet duck. So yeah, everybody knows that once dad started talking about the pet duck, the emotional cascade has already begun. It's like a nuclear reactor core that's heated up to the point that you just better run for the hills. You know what I'm saying? It's already begun. Ain't no stopping it now. Running for the hills. That's what I've been doing. Sleeping in my van by rivers, just like the Chris Farley thing, you know, crying to the trees, watching our worldviews fragment into 10,000 variations on an apocalyptic theme. The sky is falling. I'm convinced it's so weird now that if we did suddenly discover that the earth was flat, I'd hardly be surprised. I feel like we're so close to the end. Don't worry, I'm okay. I have a lot of hope. I believe God's got a plan. Who knows about the deep state? The puppet masters. I mean, when they could no longer fool us into believing in Biden's ability to be a president, they assured us that we had nothing to worry about. Don't worry, we've got a team. It's all taken care of. Well, wasn't he the president? Yeah, he's not really functioning. But anyway, things like that. You know, lots of little things you see like that. Yeah. I went to therapy when I was about 35 years old because I was feeling pretty fucking crazy, pretty angry, pretty hurt, resentful. I didn't even know how resentful I was. I was jealous, and I couldn't even identify it as jealousy. What's that? Does anybody ever deal with that kind of shit? Ooh. Oh, so jokes. That's why the jokes now. Anybody ever do any breathing? I learned how to breathe. I started paying attention to my breath. That's what they told me to do. Did you ever rock yourself like a baby? That's what Thich Nhat Hanh told me to do. He's a Buddhist monk from Vietnam, a guy who just kept rebuilding bombed villages, watching friends and family die for years in the Vietnam War. He's kind of a badass, this little dude. Anyway, he was like, just breathe. Breathing in, breathing out. I was like, okay. And then I met Pema Chodron. She's another Buddhist nun. And she was like, hey, by the way, if you thought this meditation was going to fix you, yeah, you're not. No, it's not going to. And she was right. It didn't fix me.
L and to EOW, the alchemical process of turning suffering into comedy gold. Come on, Transrational Blues.